I love that. Hey,
Like,
guys, what
yeah.
you guys watching? Ask your questions. I want to get to Melissa's question earlier. Roberto is being.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Roberto, for being so patient. I was only going to have you on for about 45 minutes, an hour. We're well above that now. We're at an hour
I'm
and
good.
25. But thank you so much, Roberto. You guys ask your questions. Watching, definitely on the replay. Those of you watching on the replay, leave your questions in the comments below, because I come back, and I'm hoping Roberto will too. I know he's going to put his links in there, and we'll address them. I'll get them to him somehow. Trust me, I'll be the mediator if I have to. I have no problem with that. I'm going to come back and respond to all your comments. Melissa asked earlier, I don't know if she's here anymore. She asked about solopreneur.
Yep.
She asked about, what do you call yourself a solopreneur? What is a solopreneur? I honestly feel like I'm a solopreneur. I have my own definition. What do you think, Roberto? What is a solopreneur?
Yeah, a solopreneur is where you're putting roughly about 99% of everything on your own back and doing everything yourself. And for the longest time, I have been. I used to not outsource, aside from individual single standalone projects, which I still think makes you a solopreneur. That's still a lot of my model now.
Now, I had Nick do I know you know Nick Nimmin. I had Nick from Tuber Tools. Nick is awesome, by the way.
Yep, love Nick.
And Nick, I know you know Nick, and Nick he was like, when I told him I had you on the show, Nick was like jumping with. I don't know if I think he's in Thailand, so he might actually.
Yeah, he's in Thailand. He might be up. Yeah,
he might be up. I hope you're watching, Nick. If you are, leave a comment. But I had Nick do my banner art, my channel art for my channel. Oh my God. And like, he's given me all sorts of thumbnail sort of templates and like just cool brand. He gave me my logo for the Professor Nez with the cool little graduation hat, because I'm sort of, and I'd love your thought on this, Roberto, now that I have you here. Mm-hmm. So obviously my name is Peter. My first name is not Professor. All my students, because my last name is kind of long, all my students actually coined that name, Professor Nez. And I think it has a nice ring to it. And because
I like that. And I love your hashtag NEZNATION. It's like my great awesome. Yeah.
Roberto gives me the thumbs up for my hashtag. I use that hashtag on my Instagram, my Twitter, everywhere, like everywhere I use it. And even my Facebook group is NEZNATION, which is a tribe. It's not any hierarchical cult weird crap like that. It's just a tribe of creative people, much like Roberto created with his Create Awesome community. It's just a tribe of people who are trying to motivate and inspire each other. And so here, I would love your advice on this real quick, Roberto, because I am trying to create and monetize my experience and my expertise, right? My 15 years educator, 30 years writing, reading, sleeping, breathing, authoring, video creation, editing, all that. And so I've already created a few courses. I'm going to create more. I'm doing coaching programs. I'm going to be doing private Facebook group masterminds. And so Professor Nez is that way of leveraging that ethos and that credibility. And plus, I just like it better than Peter Nez.
Yeah.
I just like having that prefix. What are your thoughts on that, Roberto? Do you think that's smart or not smart?
No, I think it's smart. I think it's smart. I think it's great branding. I think it's great branding. I think it's smart. Here is your... Now, here's the solopreneur thing is like, you have to get to a point as a solopreneur where it's practical from time and money trade-off to not be a solopreneur, because I don't like being a single point of failure. You get sick, no work gets done. Like, you know, you have to, like, that's why I built Create Awesome Media. I didn't build it just to put an LLC in front of my, one person consulting thing. I'm like, no, I built that so that, I could bring on Jason Liebman, Kimberlea, Kayla Gallagher, and people like that to help me get more clients on video marketing, especially YouTube and consulting. Kayla is a whiz at Instagram and Facebook marketing, especially for video. But there's things where I was even able to help her. And I was like, well, Kayla, you're focused on making as a YouTuber right now, because it's like the only out of the three big platforms, it's the one where you don't have 100K, because she has like 100K plus people in Instagram and Facebook. Didn't realize what a big deal that was.
That's huge.
Didn't realize what a big deal it was. Didn't realize how many ways she could monetize that. Forget YouTube. She has a deal with what she's doing that's different than most YouTubers, but she's making good money. And I was like, okay, we're gonna team up, because like I want you as a client. I want you as a partner. I want you to be with me on Create Awesome Media. I want us to work and go after clients together. I want you to acquire clients, bring them into the firm, and then we attack it as a team. I want to do that, and I want to help you scale in YouTube, but I also want to help you monetize your other platforms. But I want your expertise on what I'm doing in the other platforms, because you understand those, and I want to use you to confirm what I believe about the algorithms, so that I can attack the Instagram algorithm and the Facebook algorithm, so I'm not beholden to them in the way that I want to do content.
Roberto, I want you to do a whole playlist on breaking the Instagram algorithm. I mean, there's like a million videos.
When I feel like I have something replicable.
I can't wait. I know you will. I know you're going to crack it. Like
if nothing else, though, I will have something fairly soon on best practices, and it might be a 5 tips and then a 10 tips and so on.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for that.
Because the thing is, what I do have down, as you've seen, is I understand how to use good photography in Instagram in a way that most people probably don't, even for selfies. And like, they're selfies, but I'm not taking them myself. But if I was, I actually could rig that with Bluetooth, and there's, that's what having fancy cameras does for you. But there's there's methods for that. So again, my answer to being a solopreneur is that being a solopreneur is rough, because then you don't get vacation days for sure, because then the business is closed down. Your working hours drag out. It's impractical long term. Initially, to make the most margin, you have to. But the thing that I did was, because of the way my brain works, I build and manufacture these systems. I prioritized passive revenue streams over active revenue streams, because then it's a machine running through something versus me. Oh, I didn't wake up and do anything today, I got no money. Like, I needed to create systems to be scalable, and to make that be where the majority of revenue comes from, so I can stop trading time. And so content in YouTube that monetizes in multiple ways and not just ad revenue is a machine that sits there and churns out thousands of dollars for me a month, whether I do anything.
Oh, beautiful. Just beautiful.
And because it's evergreen content.
And you did that organically, and it's evergreen too. So it's going to be like 5 years from now, it's going to have it could have God knows how many views and how many people it's helped.
Most of your favorite YouTubers make 90% of the revenue on a video in the first 48 hours. Here's part of that being dangerous.
Interesting.
What if it gets demonetized and flagged by YouTube and they have to do an appeal? The appeal process is slow. So
takes forever,
which is why, since the 2017 change of the ad-friendly content being a much more rigid thing, and that also was something happening in 2016 as well, and demonetization being more frequent and so on and so forth, and now advertiser skepticism, all of those things are reality that the top tier people in YouTube, they'll still make more than enough money to live off of depending on their lifestyle, but you can't replicate what they did, and you can't go, oh, I'll make a controversial clickbait channel and get all the views now, because it's like, you won't make money. Like, you can't play by the playbook of 2016 or 2015 or 2013 anymore. It's always evolving. Like we talked about, the only constant is chaos. So there are people who are going to think that best practices are emulate this big YouTuber, this YouTuber, this YouTuber, because maybe they're in my niche and everything like that. But it's like, they already made the majority of the money that they can make doing those things. And now they have a big enough brand, and they have enough other things going on, things they don't even talk about publicly as engines of money. You don't know what they're invested in. You don't know what they have equity in. You don't know. Like a lot of times for the gaming community, the CSGO gamers were running CSGO gambling websites, and then they got called out later by all the YouTube news and drama channels. But they had like these under the hood things that were making them a lot of money. The Minecraft community, they have servers and hosting deals, and a lot of them actually run the Minecraft private servers that people pay into. They have 6- and 7-figure tech businesses that they don't talk about publicly, and then they just do their squeaky voice on their Minecraft videos. Like, so there's and they're not being grimy or shady. I'm just saying, you don't know how these people's revenue systems and streams work. I don't tell you how much money I make on things, but I'm transparent about, well, these are the ways that I make my money. And I wouldn't throw time at them if it wasn't worth it. So you can understand that you might be better at this thing than me. I consider myself the crash test dummy of creative entrepreneurship. I'm doing things like I'm attacking the Instagram algorithm, because I know that when I get 10,000 subscribers, that all the one-liners that people like the best from my motivational and vulnerable things, because I end up with these one-liners or these sound bites.
Oh my God, we've had like 10 just in our conversation. Remember, even on our phone conversation.
I watch through the recordings. I watch through my own recordings. I have other people do it sometimes, and then I pull out one-liners and sound bites, and then I make a note. And then privately, I'm working with artists. I'm getting shirts made, new shirts beyond the Always Be Creating, the Just Create Awesome. You got a buyer right here. You got a consumer right here. No excuse. Like, I have a T-shirt that's new. That's in the store, robertoblake.com/shirts, and it's execution is for winners, excuses are for anyone.
Oh man,
that shirt.
What was the one that we said? What was the one that we said it was? Oh, I think we talked about it, Roberto. It was like, you know what an entrepreneur's retirement plan is?
Death. Like,
so
and then like, it's like, you know, like emperors don't retire, or no retirement plan for emperors, things like that.
It's like, hey, do you have a 401k? No. Do you have a pension plan? No. Do you have an IRA? No. You know what my retirement plan is? Death. I love it. It's so good.
Like,
it's so good.
It's the only end game for entrepreneurs is death.
I can see I can see the graphic, like the skull and bones and the entrepreneur and the passive income stream. I can see the whole thing, the shirt,
skull and bones,
banner,
the cash in the mouth, like.
Oh, it's so good. Like guys, if you, just to clue you guys in, as Nation, you guys watching, I got on the phone, and here's again the power of social, right? I've never met, and I will. I don't know if you're going. Are you going to Vid Summit, Roberto?
Yeah, I'm speaking.
So hopefully I'll meet him there, because that's only an hour.
Yeah, I'm speaking. Daryl Leaves invited me out. I'm speaking.
Awesome. So I've never met Roberto in person. I already we got on the phone. I remember getting off the phone, feeling electricity kind of course through me, because I know you guys know this. I'm sure Roberto knows this, being a creator. When you find somebody who's on your frequency, on your wavelength, and you can communicate, because there's a lot of smart people, there's a lot of intelligent people, but people who can actually articulate their vision, their purpose. I tell my writing students this all the time. You can have all the money in the world, you can have all the credentials, all the accolades, but if you can't communicate your purpose and your vision, it means goose egg, right? I talked on the phone with Roberto, never met him in person. He was nice enough, humble enough to be on my show, and I'm embarrassing him right now. He's like, shut up. But like literally, like we got off the phone. He was so super nice. And Todd told me the same thing. If you're still watching Todd was one of the first people. And this is, I think, to put it in context of personal branding. And I know he wasn't doing it for that reason, but he's just a nice dude. Todd told me when he went to Live, I think it was Summit Live. I can't remember what it was. He said,
it's probably Summit Live, or
if there's
it was
one thing I can
VidCon.
take away, I think it was, he said, if there was, and I have coffee with Todd. Todd lives like 20 minutes from me.
Oh, wow.
We meet up and have, we don't meet up enough. We should, because we're entrepreneurs. We're working every second. But like Todd told me, I go, what was like the coolest thing about, because I couldn't make it because I had class, of course. And he was like, I'm telling you right now, 2 words, Roberto Blake. And I'll never forget that. He said that. And then that was when I went and subscribed to Roberto's YouTube channel, because I go, well, I didn't really know that much. I kind of heard through the highways and byways. This is literally manifestation.
That's what's going to get me to 1 million one day.
Dude, this is like, it to me, it just clicked.
Not going viral.
It totally clicked when I talked to Todd, and I went and watched 2 of his videos. One of them was about YouTube growth, and another one was about something tech related, because I was using the same software. I can't remember what it was. It was a long time ago. This was like over a year ago, maybe. And I subscribed to his channel, and here I am talking to Roberto Blake. He got on the phone with me. He literally just went right. We got into such a rhythm. Don't you think, Roberto?
Oh, yeah.
We got into such a rhythm because he could tell. I knew on the other line of the phone, here's the creator's intuition. I knew in my own inner psyche that on the other line of the phone, Roberto could feel, okay, this is a dude I can actually talk to, because I felt it like that. And then here he is, talking on my show, being a guest, sharing this. I'm recording this. It's going to go on YouTube. It's going to go viral. I mean, it's just, to me, that's the true power. Anybody who defames, anybody who talks bad about this generation, we even talked about that. Like, I just think you got to throw away your assumptions. You got to throw away, this is what we talk about on my Mindset Live show. You got to throw away your preconditioned perceptions and really come at things fresh, because comparisons are odious.
I tell everybody, everybody, every human being is an individualist experience. When you want to go, oh, this group of, now granted, if a group has like as their banner a thesis of like, you know, we're the crappiest humans on the planet, that take them at their word. If they say, oh, hey, we're prejudiced, take them at their word. Or like, hey, we're Mac people, take them at their word.
Mac people.
If someone's declaring a bias or declaring their intentions that you interpret as ill intentions, take them at their word. It's like, hey, we're the conquering army that, like, you know, like, join us or die. It's like, take them at their word, please. Yeah. Like, you know, that's real. But that being said, I believe in taking people as individuals. I also don't believe in having a preconceived notion on the rhetoric. It's like, I will listen to people I trust, and maybe it does color like my bias or something like that, but I'm looking for the confirmation in the moment or the contradiction. I want to see for myself, because as much as I might trust a friend or a family member or a news source, you know who I trust above them? Me. I trust myself and my judgment above, and some people think that's hubris. I'm like, no, I trust myself as a source first.
Right.
Everything else I have skepticism toward. I need confirmation. Right. Multiple party confirmation until I see it with my own eyes, and I can also then confirm whether those eyes were fresh or whether I had a colored bias. Because like what I'll trust myself, but I'll be self-aware enough to know that I might have had a bias.
Of course.
And I'll own that bias,
which is a byproduct of self-awareness.
Right. But also, bias has become a dirty word. Not every bias is inaccurate. Not every bias is inaccurate. That's not like bias. Is inaccurate. It's been colored as
do expound, please.
Primary example: if your bias, you might have a bias because it's your experience, but that bias might be confirmed by empirical data. So just because you had that bias,
interesting,
just because the way you arrived at your conclusion might be somewhat flawed or skewed, doesn't change the fact that the net result is the same.
Biases aren't always false. There's another T-shirt. Melissa, put that T-shirt in there. Melissa goes, Melissa's like, we've had about 20 T-shirts in the last 20 minutes.
Right. Like, so, I mean,
we got a lot of marketers watching. Hey, Roberto, we got a lot. The mindset of a marketer, they're constantly.
Well, marketers of all people should know that biases aren't necessarily inaccurate.
Right.
Because a bias that you might have is like, all right, if your bias is that, well, you favor Apple products, part of that bias is, well, Apple spent a disproportionate amount of money in market research and in advertising. In addition to being the most profitable brand, despite the fact that their margins are ridiculous and they're overpriced for what they deliver on, and they're not the best product objectively, but the experience is one of the best user experiences, and you've been marketed to understand and believe that. They pay more for advertising, so they're more in your face than anyone. The prestige associated with them because the people you admire the most use them. So just because you might have all these things that inflate your bias, well, here's the thing. You have a confirmation in the fact that, well, they might have this market share, and if nothing else, they're the most profitable brand in the world.
Right.
So is your bias wrong? Like, to favor Apple? No. And again, it also might be down to your individual experience of Apple's been good to you in some way. Yeah. It's the thing that you may have learned on. It's the thing you might have the most experience. It might be the ecosystem you're the fastest at. I have an Adobe bias, but it doesn't mean that I don't give other products or other things a chance. I have an Adobe bias because I've mastered an Adobe workflow across multiple things, which means it's the fastest thing I can work in. There's no amount of anything I can do that will allow me, the product and the hardware could be optimized to be faster on every level. I won't be faster using it.
Right.
That's objectively true. That's not about me having a bias. That's the user behavior associated with my workflow. Like we can't, or if I say, hey, my shop's an Adobe shop, it's like, oh, well, you guys are inaccurate, or you guys have a bias, or you're Adobe shills or whatever. It's like, it's what made us our money, and it's what saved us our speed, and it's what created our best results. And there's no amount of investment of time that can get us into the other thing as fast, and there's no reason to. And we're still going to use the other tools because that other suite is only good on a standalone product, and we have these other 5 things we have to do. So we're going to stay with an ecosystem. It makes the most sense. We can't justify buying Final Cut Pro just to have faster video editing if it's not also faster VFX, if it's not also faster thumbnails, if it's not also, it's like the trade-off, it's diminishing returns.
Time is the ultimate commodity, isn't it, Roberto? Time. Exactly.
So the thing is, you can find, if it's not a true rationalization and it's backed by empirical data, then it's fine for you to have a bias if you're aware of it, and if the bias isn't purely subjective. And so that's the thing. Or if it's user specific, then it's valid because your use case is your use case.
Right.
Your life and your experiences have told you this thing. It's not wrong.
This is what I love about this type of conversation. And this is why I was telling, and this is why I want Roberto to come to my class. If he's ever in this area, he's going to definitely come visit my class and just give a quick 30-minute talk on what's real.
We'll film it.
It's about, and definitely we'll make content out of it.
Yeah.
I love it. My favorite kind of marketing, content marketing. That's my favorite. So, because it's the most fun, and I think it's the most leveraged.
I think it's the most real.
Yeah, it's the most real. Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this is Roberto's coming from experiential learning. It's not just textbook. A lot of my colleagues, and we talked about this earlier before we went live, we don't want to defame education, because in every field, as George Carlin said, in every field there are a few bad, right? There are a few.
Well, I think there's a difference between education and academia. I love the way you said that.
I love the way you said
that.
Very, very true. So let's compartmentalize that. I love that. So in academia, it's based on intellectual kind of research, textbook oriented knowledge. Whereas, and
a lot of it's very theoretical,
which I don't like. I don't like intellectual learning. I like experiential. And Roberto's coming from that sort of hard pressed, really augmented experience where it's practical, it's real, it's applicable. I tell my students all the time, and I talk to Ai Zhang. I don't know if you know who Ai Zhang is, but she's also a social media professor, so to speak, who's trying to basically acclimate the way that this generation is communicating in the 21st century and bringing that to the most important space of their lives at this current time, which is inside the classroom. It shouldn't be just in a box. It should be able to be
I'll tell you literally like the things that I would do if I were like, all right, so I've said this before out loud too. Like, so let's pretend for a minute all things are equal. And you guys decided that, much like the Romans, you decide, you know what, we've had enough. We're just going to appoint an emperor, and he's going to fix this thing. It's like, so if you guys appointed Emperor Roberto, one of my first mandates is, this is how I fix education. Education in the form of academia, we go to being diagnostic and applicable instead of evaluative. The grading scale is crap. Do you know why? It makes people feel bad and tells you you're stupid, you're not good enough. It becomes this binary thing of, this is the scale that we decide to say how stupid or smart you are.
It's not relevant.
Diagnosing the way in which you think and the way in which you absorb information, apply information, and are able to execute an action on it, which is the word testing comes back to the history of, again, go to a doctor, test or run to be diagnostic, not evaluative. Diagnostic, not evaluative. What we know is you're an organic being. You're going to die unless you found all 7 Dragon Balls and you managed to make a wish and not get thrown into the dead zone.
You did not go there. Did you actually go there? You actually went there.
Yes, I did, because I'm a nerd. I love it. Like, Star Wars bobbleheads were not an indication enough.
By the way, don't tell me what happens, Roberto. But I know Roberto's going to be like, you what? I have not seen. Okay, everybody's going to probably leave my channel now and leave my Facebook page. I have not seen Rogue One. Okay, I haven't seen it. Look at Roberto. But guess what? Guess what Netflix just released? And I started
Rogue
watching
One.
it.
I saw it. Yep.
They just released it, so I'm gonna watch it. It's not the same as the theater, but I've already watched about the first 30 minutes.
How big your house is, but
well, it's not that big. It's not in the middle of nowhere in 15,000 square feet, however much square feet yours is. But I started watching like the first half hour. I'm riveted, but I fell asleep because it was like 2 a.m. And of course, being an entrepreneur, I had my laptop in my lap while I was watching. So here's the cool thing is I actually feel that because like companies like Netflix, and I know you'll agree with this, Roberto, like I feel we talked about this adapt or die kind of mentality, adaptation. I felt that Blockbuster could have been Netflix if they wanted to. But they didn't. Why do you think they didn't adapt? Why do you think like there's so many like Tower Records, like all
fear and hubris.
Fear and hubris.
Fear and hubris. Once someone is comfortable, their greatest fear is discomfort. Learning a new thing, most people won't do it because it's uncomfortable.
So what works. What's work isn't working, but they're too are they too lazy to adapt, or they just feel
they rationalize because you and I say it isn't working, they're like, we're making profits, we've got X amount of stores in X amount of states, and that was their whole. They just justify it. So it's that combination of hubris and fear is because if I want to stay comfortable and I'm afraid of something new, my first objective is to delegitimize the new thing by rationalizing my past successes.
Then
making this.
There's another T-shirt, Melissa. Put that down.
Because this new thing is unknown, It's thus bad because the law of pimpiquity in psychology, familiar, short version, familiar good, unfamiliar bad.
Very true.
Like known, yes. Unknown, no. Scary, bad, go away. It's the dark. I don't understand. Our fear of the dark, our primordial fears.
The unknown, right.
It's that, all right, I will confirm my own biases with data that tells me what I want to believe so that I can continue down a path that is comfortable versus looking at the holistic thing objectively and realizing that a pivot may be required. So what they wanted to do was stay in the lane that they've always won in out of fear that they'll make a mistake, out of fear of the unknown, out of, well, we've been established for 30 years. We're fine. This thing is like 2 years old. It's nothing. It'll be a fad. It'll be gone overnight. And it became the new reality and disruptive. And when they had the opportunity to buy it, they should have. And if I was Netflix, I'm a spiteful enough person because it's like everyone thinks I'm a nice guy when I'm a nice guy, but you guys don't want to be on the other side. It's like I make the Star Wars and the Emperor and the Sith Lord jokes for a reason. There is another side, the dark side. It served me well over the years. Yeah. Remember, fear, guilt, and anger have been a lot of the things that I use to hack my way into overcoming other things. Like, so understand, I'm a gray Jedi at best.
Now, like, where does, don't tell me what, obviously don't spoil the movie. Where does Rogue One rank for you?
Probably, honestly, if it's not the greatest Star Wars film of all time, it's the second to Empire.
Oh my God. You know what's crazy is like, you're the millionth person who said that. Like to me,
it's real.
To me, the first Star Wars is a wash. Like, forget the first Star. I mean, Lucas was experimenting and he was still kind of new, but I think the directorial debuts in Empire Strikes Back, and I even think
Empire was mastery of the art form.
I think Jedi is underestimated personally.
Jedi's underestimated. I can't believe
we're going here now.
Empire is this is your peak. This is the pinnacle of accomplishment. Like, Empire is that. Jedi is underestimated. If I was going to rank Star Wars films, it's Empire, and then Return of the Jedi, and then
Force Awakens.
And then
not Jar Jar. Don't tell me the Jar Jar series.
No. Why am I spacing?
Not the Force Awakens, right?
Yes.
Yes, the Force Awakens.
Yeah, Force Awakens comes before A New Hope in the tier for me.
Same here. Okay, I would totally agree.
So it's Empire, Jedi, Force Awakens, then it's A New Hope, then it's Revenge of the Sith, then it's Attack of the Clones. Oh, by the way, I'm like assuming
Phantom Menace is last.
I'm putting Phantom Menace is last, but the thing is, it's not as problematic as people think it is. There are things where it could have been like little tweaks, and I could have made that work. But but in the context of what I know in the expanded universe, Phantom Menace isn't that bad. And if they had done what they had really kind of wanted to do, it would have made sense. The whole prequel trilogy would have been like, if they had done practical effects instead of so much CGI, that's what
it was. It was all the CGI, and the Star Wars audience was in 1999. Correct me if I'm wrong, Roberto. The Star Wars audience was still expecting that organic. We wanted to feel it. We wanted to feel it. We wanted that used Star Wars. I like the idea. Star Wars was not a pristine future. It was a used future most of the time. The only thing that was ever pristine was the clinical inhumanity of the Empire, but everything else felt very textured. The new stuff was too polished. Now, in a marketing context, in a branding context, which is what we've been talking about, why do you think, even though Lucas isn't involved anymore, and I think Abrams has done a great job, but why do you think, just from a branding, from a storytelling aspect, why do you think it is that people are still nuts over Star Wars? Why do you think that is, Roberto?
It's partly the core of the story, but it's also all the stories it borrowed from, and it's the
What is the core of the story? What do you think is the core of the story? What's the sort of parable, if you will? Or
there's more than one, but it depends on who you are. It depends on who you are.
Okay.
If you're a young person, the idea, when you watch A New Hope, if you're a young person, and you're optimistic when you're young, and the idea that you've been wandering through your life aimlessly thinking that I think I have more in me than this. I might have something special about me. Everybody is waiting for a wise old wizard to tell them they're the chosen one. It's the same reason Harry Potter. It's the same thing. It's that
mythology. It's the mythology. It's the mythology of character.
The mythology that I'm an unknown but one day I might be the greatest of all time. The fact that maybe I am a unique and special unicorn and nobody told me, and I'm just waiting to understand and take my first step into a bigger world, as Obi-Wan would say. That's the allure of A New Hope. The idea that there's this big, great world of adventure out there and that you might have a part to play. Yeah. And that's the appeal and the allure of it. What's appealing about Empire is the fact that everybody has somewhat of a dark revenge fantasy in them. And also everybody, to be honest, to reach their true potential, needs something to overcome. They need a Darth Vader. They need an obstacle. They need the Emperor. They need an empire to take down.
Opposition is something.
They need that. Right. But coming from another point of view, if you, as I do sometimes, have an affinity more with the Empire than with the Rebel Alliance, it might be that sometimes you think like, you know, my desire to control things is not that I want to oppress people. It's that I want to end the destructive conflict. It's that I've suffered at the hands of chaos and everybody thinking that they're their own, every man a king. Like I've been on the other end of that. I've seen the chaos. I've seen the repercussions. I've seen the agony that happens from that anarchy. And so only through order can true prosperity or true meritocracy, not this random sense of, oh, whatever I can do, or it's unfair, or I should be given unrestricted freedom to achieve my true potential at the expense of others. It's that, no, the Empire really believed in meritocracy. And so even if you don't believe in every execution of what the Empire did, philosophically, you could be an Imperial and not be a bad person. It's a matter of the perspective and the point of view that you've chosen. In fact, it's why there are a lot of people like Wedge Antilles who actually were in the Empire and defected because they didn't agree with the decisions. They originally were like, well, I thought that I was keeping the peace, or I thought that I was helping establish order. Remember that Anakin Skywalker came from a lawless land called Tatooine, where slavery was still a thing, and the Republic couldn't do anything about it. But the Empire, Han Solo was afraid that they didn't stop slavery, but they were stopped smugglers. And like Han Solo was a lawbreaker. He was a formal, disgraced Imperial.
He was as irreverent as they come. Yeah,
and he was like, "Oh no, I'm not getting caught by the Empire. I'm ditching Jabba's stuff." You know, like. Because I have to, like, Imperial law, I'm not breaking Imperial law. There are consequences. So the Empire was more lawful. And if you lived in the core worlds, life was good for you if you were in the core worlds, unless you were in the slums of Coruscant. Traditional thing. Okay, there's this impoverished population. But in the Star Wars universe, under the Empire, believe it or not, the poor were not the majority. Like that's now, again, this is a fictional universe in the expanded universe. I'm just using there's always something for everyone in Star Wars. If you feel like an alien or a foreigner, or if you are an immigrant, there are things for you to latch onto. If you are someone who's always sought or hoped that there's a mentor out there for you, you can understand, and you can Empire is great for you because it's like, this is what it's like to find someone who can be a teacher, who can help you discover what's special about you, who can unlock your potential, who can give you answers.
Right.
People who like maybe like have an antagonistic relationship with a parental figure can identify with the struggle between Luke and Darth Vader. People who feel estranged from their children can relate to it in the other way. People who are like, you know what? I don't always do the right thing because I'm in pain and I lash out, can identify with Darth Vader. Most of my childhood and adulthood, I identified very much, still do sometimes, with Darth Vader, in the sense that he didn't always do the right thing. He was by no stretch of the imagination, by the end of those things, a good person. But he
ended up being one, right? Didn't he end up being a good person?
But his whole life was suffering.
Right.
Star Wars is the tale, from my perspective, as Lucas would say, it's an opera that represents the tragedy of Anakin Skywalker. Someone who was born a slave, somebody who was abused their entire life, who had very few kindnesses showed them. Even when he was indoctrinated to the Jedi, they were using him for their own purposes. They called him a brother. They wanted him to be the best Jedi ever, but not the best person he could be. They didn't think and to consider his needs and what he might need.
Wow,
they
that's
didn't
an interesting
consider that
perspective.
They ripped him away from his family, and that they were denying him love and affection again, and that this wasn't the normal for him, like people who were born into the Jedi Order, and it's why they didn't want to take him initially in the first place. But what's the answer? Leave him in slavery, or leave him to his own devices, let him have all this potential and power and never realize it, or worse, be corrupted by some outside force? They're like, you know, what do you do? But the answer was not what they did. They kept holding to the dogma instead of adapting and pivoting. The Jedi Order died because it didn't adapt. The Sith Order died for the same reason. Bane 1,000 years ago pivoted, and like the Sith Order, he thought it was going to destroy itself with the end fighting. That's why he created the rule of two, as you would say, adapt or die. So Star Wars,
adaptation.
So many philosophical things in there. There's so many stories to resonate with, whether you're a fan, you're a sci-fi person, whether you like the religious allegories or not. There's so much to connect with because it's a rich tapestry of storytelling. It doesn't seek or desire to be any one thing. It has always been an amalgamation of stories that Lucas borrowed from and comprised into a grand vision of something more, the whole of the sum of its parts. Any story that is that, whether it's Star Wars or Harry Potter, will resonate and become the mythology of a generation.
Right.
Lord of the Rings for a time was that for people in the books, not the movies. In the Game of Thrones is that for many people today. Yeah. And so there will always be these mythologies, these grand stories, these grand tales that resonate with us on a human level because the story is not unlike our own. It's just taken to an extreme, and it's an exaggeration, and it's a fantasy that we can imagine at scale of like, there's a person like me in a world that's nothing like mine. Yeah. And isn't that a wonderful and fantastic thought?
And fantasy has always resonated with humankind, mankind since the dawn of, you know, the Odyssey, right? Homer's The Odyssey. It's all the mythology and fantasy. And I think how this relates to branding and how this relates to marketing, especially digital marketing.
Compelling storytelling that relates and resonates.
It's fantastic. I love it. Okay. So I want to kind of wind things down. We're at the 2-hour mark. This is so awesome. But wow. I do have yeah, I'm so appreciative of your time, Roberto. But I have one question that I want to ask you that I wanted to ask you, and that I really want to, I think it would be a nice way to sort of wrap it up. And sure. most of our audience now has gone to bed. Thank you so much for watching, you guys, and you guys watching on the replay. We love you. Leave your comments, please, for the love of God. I'm going to come back. I know Roberto will be responsive, and I can somehow get them to Roberto too as well. But Roberto, I wanted to ask you, what is your number one concern with what's happening within the digital space right now? What is something that it's like, you know, this just, I have to, this is, oh, Gord's still here. Okay, Gord, you're still here. Thank you. Gord is still in the house. Gord, you are a trooper. Thank you, Gord.
Yeah.
What is your one biggest concern? And then we can kind of get to know, then we can tell our Nez Nation audience where they can find you. What is your biggest concern right now in the digital space?
I'll tell you my concern, and then I'll tell you my hope, because my concern is dark as hell.
Okay, we'll end with hope.
Yeah. So we'll end with something more optimistic. Like my concern in the digital landscape is how much of it I see that is like, I really feel when I look at the digital landscape sometimes, like it's on the precipice of being consumed by the dark side of the force. I feel that it's driven by insecurity and vanity and greed and lust and fear and resentment and rampant anxiety. And I see it. People are like, why is my channel not growing as much as it is? Or it's like, so-and-so does crappy content. Why do they have so many of a following? They don't deserve it, or whatever. It's like, oh, I guess fake it till you make it. Or, oh, buy views, buy subs, buy followers, buy Instagram likes, whatever. Like there's so much of it, and it's all driven by this underlying fear. And then there's anger toward the platforms and the companies whenever anything changes. It's this reactiveness. And then it consumes and festers, and there's rivalry, and there's not the sense of cooperation sometimes, and it's the need to want to call people out. There's this rampant culture of doing exposed content of like, it's not even the true purpose of wanting to get to some underlying truth. It's just applying the lens of skepticism to everything and looking for dirt, really. Right. It's become, especially in YouTube. And it's all this negativity, and yet all these bad and horrible things still feed the machine and feed the beast. And it's a lot easier to fall to the dark side than to stick it through. Like we talked about earlier, the question that the person had earlier of how do you balance doing the things that are satisfying to you and that's within your scope of what you want to do or what you feel you need to do, and integrity, and balance that against the outcomes. Is that I'm like, if you're outcome driven, you're almost doomed, really.
Right.
You have to be purpose and process driven, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's not that you disregard outcomes and that you don't understand how to pivot and adapt, and like, you know, you have to meet the numbers, you have to pay your bills, you have to do this, but understand the thresholds and the limits. We see companies that'll do anything to be recordly profitable quarter after quarter, year after year, at the expense of consumers, at the expense of employees, at the expense of truth, at the expense of integrity, at the expense of product quality, at the expense of safety. We see this greed, this corporatism, this aggressive capitalism versus what we used to have in this country, but this country probably, in my opinion, was kind of founded on was compassionate capitalism.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like when you have this greed and rampant aggressive expansion in capitalism, it's what makes people rationalize and justify things like prior to the Civil War, slavery. Slavery was, I don't think it was truly just driven out of hate. I think it was out of empirical economic necessity for the Confederate States in comparison to the prosperity of the northern states because of their access to certain resources.
Who wouldn't want free labor?
Free labor
that's insane,
force, right?
Imagine creating a free social media team. You wouldn't have to pay your editor. You wouldn't have to pay your, you know, your content poster or what have you.
Well, there are businesses that figured out a model of that, but it's free or freemium, but they found
automated,
give people, like a lot of these sites that have user generated content.
Right.
Think about it. The platforms, YouTube is all user generated content.
That's true.
But what they did is they made it equitable.
Yeah.
Facebook still hasn't figured out how to make it equitable. We just have to siphon attention. We're forced to commoditize it ourselves. The same thing for Instagram. We have no monetizable or no rev sharing with those platforms. One of the only platforms that does revenue sharing with us is YouTube, which is why so many people aspire to be YouTubers, is because it's not only meritocracy, but it's compassionate capitalism. YouTube gives you.
Do you think that's coming? Do you think Facebook has to adjust?
It's in beta.
It's in beta. It's in beta.
I'm not under an
even
NDA,
live streaming, because they're pushing
beta.
live.
I'm not under an NDA, so I'll just tell you, it's in beta. It's coming.
It's coming. I knew it.
Twitter already, Periscope already did it with
Super Hearts.
Spot, the Super Hearts, right? Live.me did it with their diamonds, and like, so we're getting to that place. Everyone's just figuring out how they do it, but the thesis that I have of wanting to, through creative entrepreneurship, show people the culture that I want to create in the creative services industry is the culture that I never got to experience as an employee. So I create that as an employer, but also as an influencer. I feel a sense of responsibility to do that because I need to help other people build something so that if Roberto wanted to be an employee, he could have been. I'm not unemployable just because I want to be. I'm unemployable because it's now there are companies out there, but there's a minimum amount of companies that will hold to the standards of integrity and ethics through compassionate capitalism that I'm willing to be a part of and that I'm willing to make profitable, that will treat employees with dignity and respect, that will have less of a caste or hierarchical system within them, and don't lie outrightly to customers. Like there are very few companies that you can check those boxes off of. And they do it because they're seeking record profits every quarter. And I understand beholding fiscally to shareholders. I understand that. But I'm like, there's a line to, you don't need to be as profitable as you can be if it's at the expense of doing the right thing by everyone. And even with so using my own content as an example is, I'm not a slave to the algorithm, and I'm not a slave to the trends of YouTube, and I'm not a slave to my I'm using it because it's the most extreme term I can use, because I could just use the word beholden, but I want to make the point. So I'm using the emotional, punch there. It's a marketing thing. Like, so like going for the depth there. It's like, I'm not a slave to my audience. I'm not pandering to them, because I could literally just go to, and again, I will do more of the content because there are things that I want to do goal wise. And I know to make more of the content that I've definitively said, here's the content that performed the best for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, here's the content that performed the best for me. But out of that, how excited am I about doing more content like that? And I'm going to do that. I'm not going to just do what I know will automatically get 50,000, 100,000, 500,000 views, because I easily could do that. And I don't have anything against people who do that. I went through the live stream. You saw me today. I showed you where Logan Paul specifically did constant experiments to see what would do 1 million views minimum threshold every time until he figured out the formula. And then he only did content like that. And now it almost wouldn't matter what he does. But
he can do whatever he wants now.
But he's earned that right.
He's earned that right. Yeah.
And he's like, and he also ran his stuff through his machine. He's ran his stuff and he built a machine. Building Team 10 wasn't an accident. There's things in the algorithm that he observed. He may not be data smart like me, or he might be downplaying it, or he might have someone on his squad that is, but it's not an accident. The success.
I heard him actually just to confirm your assessment, just to corroborate that story. You're absolutely what you just said, Roberto. He's definitely hiding it, because he was on, I can't remember what it was. I don't think it was a super broadly, watched or listened to.
It was probably either like an interview on Recoded or something. It was
a podcast, because I was listening to it at the gym. But
I bet you it was Recoded.
Okay, maybe it was, because I couldn't believe, Roberto. I think most people think these Paul brothers are just, they're just buffoons, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't believe the methodical way he expressed himself in the context of how much he studied the proper way. Like, I don't know if you want to call it manufacturing virality, but I love the term. That's why I used it in our conversation earlier. Absolutely. And I was blown away, because I think I had the same perception that most people do when they see these guys. Oh, they're just teenagers. They're just young people. I mean, he's 20 now, but they're just, young. This is this generation. They just do stupid, crazy things and they become famous and make a lot of money. He was articulate about how I don't ever see the footage, meaning he said, I tell my editor very specific instructions. He was very articulate about this, Roberto. He was like, I know what frame to put where. I know how much I want him to stop on that one shot. I know where he should cut away. And I tell him very specifically, much in the same, it reminded me, because being I come from a film background, it reminded me of how Hitchcock spoke about his films. Hitchcock said,
Hitchcock
I never,
I love
Hitchcock.
Murder.
I love it.
Yes.
Oh my God, I love it. North by Northwest. And Vertigo. Vertigo is like my all-time favorite.
Every night on Nick at Night, Alfred Hitchcock presents.
Oh my God, Roberto. See, we're like brothers. I'm telling you.
Yep. See, this is why you love me.
So Hitchcock said, I never looked through NEZNATION. Those of you that are still here watching on the replay, Hitchcock said, I never looked through the viewfinder because I trusted that my cinematographer followed instructions. I was blown away, Roberto, at how Jake Paul was able to express to me, I don't know if the podcaster just found him on one of those rare days where he was just really serious and methodical, or maybe he's just like that, like you said. I think you're right.
I think he grew up watching YouTube. Think about it. He's one of the first people that you can honestly say, because YouTube, that it's been around for a decade now, and he's like in his early 20s, like he just turned like 20 or whatever. Like, he grew up on YouTube. He grew up on YouTube the same way that you and I grew up on Nickelodeon. He grew up on YouTube. Okay. We grew up on Hitchcock. We grew up on those things, and we understood and we broke down those things. And when we were 20, we could articulate those things. Everybody who underestimates him is making a mistake. The circus act of his house, it's not an accident. That is a market. It's literally, it's the smartest thing I've ever seen. It's literally, he's manufactured a constant stream, and he has an engine that he's running his personal brand through. And it's exciting to watch, because it's like, man, if I were 20, I could have pulled this, because the platform didn't exist for me. Like, it was like, I'm like, are you kidding me? Do you realize, I could literally, if I was 20 again and YouTube was in existence and everything, and I was 20 and I was just going to go and spend most of my time in college at a dorm or something like that, or stay home or whatever, you realize I literally would probably have like the biggest Star Wars YouTube channel on the internet right now. And I probably would have already spun off from that, because you could ride Star Wars forever, because now every year, but I probably would.
Plus the way that you talk about it. I mean, I barely mentioned Rogue One, and I could just see the look in your face. There was a huge, everything changed. The look in your eyes changed. What's stopping a young 33 articulate, intelligent young man like you from starting in a completely just a different separate channel all
because I am going to do a collab channel with friends for what little bit of free time that I'm willing to throw at that to do something like that. I'm putting together a collab channel. I don't talk about it too verbally because I don't know anyone to take the branding ideas. But
even better, Roberto, you could be the Star Wars live stream guy. I'm serious.
Don't have the time. Don't have the time.
Yeah,
because I'm scaling the other businesses. Remember, I just told you about like my personal brand.
Oh God, there was a look in your eye. I mean, your energy changed.
Oh yeah, I know. And the thing is, I could pull it off now that I've had the experience on YouTube for years, to where I could be a personality if I wanted to. Like I could be a voice, a disembodied voice, like, you know, welcome to the greatest Star Wars channel of all time and everything like that.
Oh my God, I think wow.
Like I could do a whole thing, right? I could do a whole Darth Roberto thing, right? I could Emperor Roberto,
Darth
like
Roberto.
whatever.
Emperor Roberto.
You know, I could do, it's like what's the line? What's about? Is like your feeble skills are no match for the powers of the dark side. Like I could literally just be voice acting. I could literally
your faith in your friends is yours.
Your faith in your friends is yours.
That's like, so good.
Hit on the tragedy of
how did this turn into the Star Wars NEZNATION
I could literally do just Palpatine voice and do like voice acting. Like I mean, like I could do a whole bit in the voice of the Emperor from Star Wars.
I actually think doing a serious show about Star Wars, like what you were saying, like a serious live stream. And I know you're super busy, but just for fun, just for your own creative. You know,
that's the whole point of the collab channel with my friends. There are friends that I have, they're in the geek space in entertainment that want to do other content because they niche down into a show or a series.
Yeah.
And we're going to do it. We're going to do it on YouTube. We might do other things later, but we're going to build it out because I just really, it's great for me to just do that different content with my friends that are in that space and not only talk with them or interview them about their creative journey and blah, blah, blah. But then also we got other people. And then the thing is, part of Create Awesome Media is like, that makes it different as an agency. Here's something that I don't talk about a lot. Here's another business thing. As an agency, sure, we're going to be doing a lot of educational and instructional stuff and all the consulting and all the things. We're also going to be doing a bunch of free content that's more about helping establish best practices, because what I really want Create Awesome Media to do is establish best practices, to be the resource and the definitive template from a education authority standpoint in video marketing of best practices for YouTube, best practices for Instagram, best practices for Facebook, detailing the algorithm, doing case studies. I want that. And that's just our authority content marketing. That's what that channel is going to be. And that's what that content's going to be. And that's what that part of our blogs are going to be, right? Whereas my Roberto Blake thing is much more focused on personal branding and creative entrepreneurship. Awesome Creator Academy is then a lot of, if you're going to do those things, the blueprints and the building blocks and the understanding the terminology and understanding what is this, like what is YouTube watch time? What is, you know, a Facebook dark post? What
audience
is
retention, all that.
What is, like all the things for all the platforms, for all the how to start a YouTube channel, the actual walk, how to start a Twitter account, how to use Twitter video, how to do live, like it's going to be the building blocks, because that's the free content that then sells the courses that are, well, you know how to do this stuff. These are the advanced courses of implementation and building brand around and building business. And so it's all those things. So it's the structure of, to build those three things. Those are my three things I'm focused on right now. But again, next year, you know, I'm doing an event. Next year, I'm doing Awesome Creator Summit. And then I'm going to try and spin that over the course of 3 years into a satellite series like Social Media Day. And so there's where it's in multiple places and everything like that.
I'll go. I would love to visit that conference. That sounds awesome.
Yeah. Awesome Creator Summit 2018 Atlanta. I don't have a date yet, but we're already working on lining up sponsors. We're doing all the things. I bought the website. I have to build the website. Building the website will be a tutorial on the main YouTube channel. You see, I integrate everything.
Yes.
And I'm hiring.
I love it.
I'm hiring because putting all this stuff on my back alone isn't practical. I'm hiring. So that's why I'm working on getting an editor to take over my YouTube content, just like Jake. And it's like, so I believe, and here's the thing, I had all this in me at 23. I just didn't have platforms in existence to do anything with it yet. And I was still acquiring and refining and honing my skills. But I've been honing my skills my whole life. I've been editing video before YouTube existed. I was in the era of LimeWire or BearShare and all that stuff. 6 years before YouTube existed, when in 2006, I'd been editing videos for years already.
Right.
I've been doing graphic design for years already before all this stuff came around.
Right.
And so all these platforms that we had were a place where I could throw all of my skills like the full potential of all of that and scale attention around it. And then I could commoditize my information from having a corporate background and apply it to people who want to do something of their own, the same way I learned the hard way. And again, I also, unlike everyone else, I'm not afraid to experiment. I told you, I'm the crash test dummy of creative entrepreneurship. That's why I'm throwing everything at the Instagram algorithm right now, but I'm doing it from a, this is what I want to do. Let me force it to make it work. Let me bend the platform to my will, like we said. It's like YouTube.
That is key.
So here's where the dark side, to wrap this whole thing up, here's where the dark side comes in. YouTubers, there are YouTubers who are like, let's use a popular YouTube couple that broke up, GF versus BF, Jesse and Gina. Okay. They were pranksters, and they also had a relationship vlog, and they said it themselves. Daily vlogging our relationship for almost a decade ruined our relationship, and that's why we're not together now, even though we love each other. And then they had the business-wise split the equity of the brands, and now they're both doing different things, but they're still cordial, and there's no telling whether they get back together or not. But it's like, wow, the choice was this wild success and fame that they got, or they could have had a great, meaningful, lifelong relationship, and clearly they made their choice, and they have regrets, and they've told everyone, don't daily vlog your relationship. They've told them, it's like, we did it, we got YouTube famous, and you guys want that. But what it cost us is this healthy relationship. They got to a point to where they didn't know whether they were doing something because they loved the other person or because they knew it would get views. Like, the fact that they even had to question that demonstrates the dark side that I'm talking about, because it's about, well, we want views, we don't want to be irrelevant, and our money is tied to this, and it's blah, blah, blah. And it's kill two birds with one stone. It's like, that's not healthy. And they talked about it. And that's a reality in YouTube that people are facing, is they're doing things for the views. What I think Jake Paul does differently, and his brother Logan, is they figured out how to manufacture virality, but they made a conscious choice in their 20s to live the coolest, funnest adventure in their 20s they can, that would allow them to manufacture virality so that their everyday life is a part of that virality. And when you're in your 20s and you have money from doing this online thing, that's not fake. You are doing crazy, zany stuff because you're 20-something years old and you have the money to do it. And that's worth recording and documenting. So just documenting your life is a formula for virality if you're 20-something years old and you have money. Because when you and I were growing up, it was called Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
That's true. Yeah.
And that's all it is. All it is a less polished, which makes it feel more real, version of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. Yeah. And so it's reality TV at its finest. And that's what it is. It's a less polished version of the Kardashians, which that's still wildly successful because there are people who aspire to. It's like we talked about relatability. I don't think that the viewers relate or identify with the lifestyle. They identify and relate with, you were from the middle of nowhere. They were from like the Midwest, just like you. And it's like, so their kids. I know a kid, Parker Panel, that loves them and looks up to them, and he's going to make it one day. One day we're going to be talking about Parker Panel, little PTV, little shout out for his channel, because the, no pun intended, but still satisfying, because he actually got a selfie recently with Jake Paul. And the thing is, he did an interview with me, and he did an interview with Sean Duras. And because he had his parents take him to social media marketing world, because he's in Kentucky, and you know that Kentucky is rural America right now. His family's doing fine, but a lot of families aren't. And guess what? People are going to look at him doing big things, living a big life, and meeting all these big YouTubers, and they're going to aspire to that. And so he's going to benefit from all the people that aspire to be Parker Panel in the same way that he is Parker Panel. Lil PTV aspires to Jake Paul and Sean Duras and me, and he looks up to us. And so the aspirational ladder, it goes both ways. It's like what Casey Neistat used to say about, like, the idea is to live a life worth vlogging about, to live a life filming, to live a life worth making a movie about. So like, that's what the Paul brothers figured out, is they got to a certain point through their Vine success and through their acting ventures to be like, we can afford to live a day-to-day circus if that's what we want to do, because we're 20. Who wouldn't want to do that? Like, but we can also scale that into a bigger thing. Yeah. And it's working, and it is working, and it will continue to work. And if they pivot at 25 and show us what serious businessmen they are, people will accept it, because look at what they built.
They have the credibility. They have the credibility.
They have the data. Look at the relationships they leverage. Yeah. So I understand this thesis of, but then people would say, well, then should you cultivate attention at all cost? They're not doing it at a cost that they're not prepared to pay. and that they don't understand the reality of. Because remember, they grew up watching this platform. They grew up watching people burn out of YouTube. They grew up watching people phase out of relevance. They watched people become cautionary tales. They watched people's fame destroyed them. They watched people be exposed for faking pranks and doing things. They saw it all, and so they built a formula and a thesis based on 10 years of YouTube University as consumers, and then as consumers built the best product in the same way that a disgruntled Blockbuster, see how I loop everything, bookend everything,
there
a disgruntled Blockbuster customer built Netflix and destroyed Netflix. Like, you know, it's like, oh, the Jedi Order, Obi-Wan, you built and you trained Anakin Skywalker, he became Darth Vader and destroyed you all. Oh, Emperor, you made Darth Vader, he destroyed you too. Like, it's like, you know, so you ultimately have a thing where the best person to create a product oftentimes is the person for whom that product was made, because they know exactly what's satisfying and dissatisfying about it. And so I really believe in that. The dark side corrupts people in social media and YouTube is because everything feels justified. Everything feels justified. And the thing is, because it's digital and there aren't physical people that you sometimes see on the other end of an interaction or a transaction, everything feels valid, everything feels fair, and everything feels detached. It's just like we have troll culture. We have troll culture and cyberbullying because no one's able to see. They sit there and they joke about drinking those people's tears, but if they actually had to experience that, we're conditioned as human beings to not like, if we're normal, if we're not psychopaths, to not like and see people in pain. I'm like, I feel really good about where I am emotionally in the fact that, like, if I see, like, even in television and film, if I see a woman crying, I have a physical reaction to that. If I see a child crying or something bad about to happen, I have a physical reaction. I'm like, oh, good. I can, like, my humanity's still intact. Great. Like, not a robot yet.
You're not yet. Not yet.
Yeah. Like, well, you know, so that's where so my hope is that that these platforms also eliminate the gatekeepers and the middlemen. They're no longer czars of taste. They're no longer academians, custodians, and money lenders determining your level of success. So my optimism is that these platforms and social media and digital allows for you and I and anyone else that is willing to work hard or has a raw, tremendous talent that would otherwise go unacknowledged, unrecognized, and not be cashed in upon. It allows us to hustle for it, fight for it, work for it, and allows us to profit and prosper and to give other people that opportunity, because my platform, your platform, we're giving other people opportunity. I told you I want to start a conference to give other people that maybe there's not a place that gives them a shot, or maybe there's not a place, a conference that values creativity enough and wants the corporate button up stuff too much, or wants tools, tips, techniques too much to value letting them speak just to storytelling, just like letting them speak to community building, to, like, you know, maybe that opportunity isn't there. My conference becomes that opportunity. It becomes that spark. It becomes the thing that legitimizes people. I want that. I want to start an online digital magazine for creatives that may become a physical magazine one day, because I want to give creatives a voice. I may not be able to pay them, but I can give them a platform to where they will have the reach to reach thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people that they may not have been able to do on their own. So I'll give them that. Because and then it's meritocracy, because then it's not about, well, do what I want because I'm paying you. It's speaking your authentic voice, give vent to a thing that people like you experience, and let me put it out into the world. And then you take that and you do something with that. Like, that's what I love what you said there, Roberto, because that's my sort of answer. You know, when I produce content and I hear from my audience and they say, well, I don't want to start live streaming because it's so saturated. I don't want to start a YouTube channel because there's so many people doing it. Are you kidding me? Like, they have the power to change the channel. There's millions and millions of people, but none of them are like you. The people who opt into you, the 50, the 10, 100, they said yes to you. They chose you. Exactly. We're all, most of us, looking for one person in our life to do that for the rest of our life. And you're going to whine when 50 people are saying yes to something you did today? I couldn't get a yes. I grew up as an artist before all this technology. You realize how few people would say, oh, cool drawing guy. Like, you realize how few, like, real life likes and thumbs up that was? And people are going to whine when they get 50 or 60 or 100
Especially
of that?
People born before the internet. Like, we're the last generation born before the internet, right? So, like, you're exactly right. That's sort of...
Well, the modern internet, because I was born 84, it technically existed.
Technically, it exists. Yeah, the modern internet. Yeah, exactly. Okay, okay. I'm dating myself. I'm a little bit older.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Gord says fine. We are each a unique divine expression. Chris Strubb's in the house.
I love that. Chris.
Yes, Chris is in the house. Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah, I got to meet Chris at VidCon this year. Finally.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah,
very
and literally
cool.
We spent 4 days trying to meet. Like, it got so bad that like he got frustrated. And there's a video of this that's on the internet. It's on my friend Jason Liebman's channel. He literally is like, I've been trying to meet you all day. It's like, welcome to like one less subscriber, Roberto, and he unsubscribes to me. And the funny thing is, in the background, I walk into frame and I'm sitting on a couch like in the distance and you can see me. And it's like, and I didn't know he's there yet. And then they come over and like he resubscribes before the end of it. And then he gets to meet me. And it was the funniest thing. It's the funniest thing because I only found out about it after the fact.
Yeah.
Like it's hilarious to me because it's like, you see what the universe does? Like, right?
Yeah. If you trust it, that the universe will always put you in the right place. You might not always get what you want, Nez Nation, but you'll always get what you need. Okay, Roberto, can I tell you something, Roberto? And then I want you to tell our audience where they can find you. If there is any like question marks still about, you could probably Google Roberto Blake and you'll find a million things.
I try to avoid saying it because it sounds pretentious, but it's true. You can just
Google. Same here. If you Google Professor Nez, you'll see my LinkedIn, my YouTube channel. You'll see my Google Plus, my Twitter, my everything. So, and Roberto, I've done the same thing for you. Actually, when Todd first mentioned you, I think I was right there on my phone. I just Googled Roberto Blake YouTube channel.
That's why personal branding matters, by the way, because that's the new reality of when you meet someone. If they don't do it right in front of your face, when you leave, they're Googling you. So
exactly.
Building personal brand matters.
I want to just say, Chris, check this out. And Gord and Nico, who are still here, and those of you watching on the replay, we launched, I want Roberto's thoughts on this. We launched NEZNATION Live. This is a talk show where we bring on innovative people talking and sharing their story, their journey to inspire others. We launched NEZNATION Live in late March of 2017. We've had over 20 episodes. Talk about hustle, Roberto. It's only the end of July. We've had probably close to 30 episodes. Alex Kahn and Ryan Steinelson were on recently. And Dave and Cassandra.
That's star talent, and that's consistency, man.
And they're just awesome. Now, Roberto Blake, the man, right? And I can say that Roberto Blake, I'm looking at the time. It is 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 27 seconds. Now, Roberto's used to doing 3 hour, 4 hour streams. NEZNATION Live,
unfortunately.
Our maximum show, I think it was Aaron Roth from Arc on Mounts. Our longest show was like an hour and 20. We've gone on for 2 hours and 31 minutes. And I tell you right now, Roberto, it literally feels like, I'm sure Chris can relate to this. It literally feels like I've been talking to you for about maybe 15, 20 minutes. Because
same thing.
When you're engaged with someone, and then here's something I think for everybody's audience, mine and Roberto's, because there is that creative sort of common denominator lying underneath everything. When you're fully engaged in what you're doing, who you're with, who you're talking with, who you're collaborating with, when you realize that time flies, I think that's an excellent barometer that you're where you belong. Do you agree with that, Roberto?
I agree 110%. It's like, I believe, in this social media era and age, it's like, do you realize like the greatest sign of like being present and engaging someone is to literally take your phone and put it face down when you arrive, and like to let it sit there almost the entire time in that position. That's like literally our new way of gauging how much respect someone has for us.
Wow, that's interesting. That's so true. Absolutely.
It's
So
the world we
Roberto,
live in now.
I want to say, just on behalf of Nez Nation, I just want to say, Chris says yes, and I hope both of y'all realize that even if there's not a million people watching right now, I feel like I'm sitting right along there with you. Thank you both. Thank you, Chris. Chris is just pure heart. You're awesome, Chris. I recently connected with Chris on Twitter and loving the engagement.
One of the most underestimated, underrated people in social media today.
He's awesome.
Because of all the other shiny objects, but like he's tremendous, and that's real hustle. Like 50 states in 100 days is an actual, but that's an actual thing to do. That's an actual experience and a journey for all the people who've like, oh, social media this or viral that and everything like that. It's like, that's a real commitment.
That's true hustle.
That's a real, like, people can't do that. Like, that's 100 days, 50 states. There's a physical threshold and barrier to doing that and to making it meaningful to everyone that you engage with and making them part of a journey. Like, and no one can do that. No one can replicate that. No one can be Chris Strubb. No one can create that. And no one can build a community around that. Like, so like, everything is an individual experience. Every channel, every platform, everything is unique value. Yep. And so everyone trying to cookie cutter, I believe in repurposing practically. But real talk, my thing is that I like to hit every platform on its own culture, on its own custom, and in its own context. And I think that's what, if you really want to build relationships with people, you have to do that. I really feel like the relationship when I live stream, it's a unique experience for you and for your audience. No two live streams, no two interviews, no two live streams I do are the same thing.
Right.
And so it's a different thing. No two platforms that I play in do I really, even when I repurpose, it's not the same experience. It's not the same thing. I do it differently. And it's a lot of people would talk about how unscalable that is, but I, like Gary Vaynerchuk, scale the unscalable. Because I think human beings matter enough to do it.
And I think on that note, Roberto, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, you are a true mensch, my friend. You are an absolute gentleman, total humble, and just a treasure trove of wisdom and insight. And I want to thank Gord. Chris, thank you. Chris says there's more to come. Got to PM you guys. Big things happening. Awesome, Chris. Gord says that was fantastic chat. I had some great takeaway nuggets. Much appreciated. Thank you so much, you guys. You guys were so awesome. Thank you for watching. Those of you watching on the replay, we really, really appreciate that.
Nez Nation, some of your questions might become videos.
Awesome. That would be awesome. That's great. So hopefully we've inspired Roberto as well. It sounds like we have. And I always love a two-way street. So if we can, because Roberto's definitely dropped some serious value bombs. And if we can inspire him back, that's all the merrier. So I want to thank you again, Roberto. Really quickly before we sign off here, tell the audience, tell my Nez Nation audience where exactly you want them to go to find out a little bit more about you. And then we'll say goodnight.
So you can find me on robertoblake.com. You know, there's plenty of things telling you about what I'm doing and about my company. If you want to connect with me, fastest way to connect with me is usually in Twitter at Roberto Blake. DMs are there too if you need to have a private chat with me about something business.
Instagram I'm doing too.
Instagram, I'm really going hardcore on creating specific value and being very honest and transparent about day to day what this creative hustle.
I like your stories, man. I like your Instagram stories, Roberto.
Yeah, and sometimes in my Instagram stories, you get sneak peeks at behind the scenes, and you get to look at my sketchbook, which nobody who doesn't know me in real life usually gets to do.
Hello.
And it's gone in 24 hours, so that's always cool. But like, yeah, and you get early alerts on when something new is coming from me or what I'm up to. And again, it's gone in 24 hours. So You'll definitely want to be over in Instagram. I've abandoned Snapchat for money reasons. Mostly, I think that was vengeance for my stock underperforming. Got in a little bit on that IPO, and I'm like glad I didn't put real money into it because
this might be the time to buy right now, actually.
maybe
not.
I don't know. You burned me once, Snapchat.
Yeah, maybe not.
Like, unless they're going to really sell to Facebook, then I don't really care anymore because Facebook will either buy them or bury them. And so I'm on Team Facebook. And but anyway,
that's pretty true.
So at Roberto Blake, pretty much in all the social platforms. You definitely want to follow me in Twitter and Instagram. YouTube channel is youtube.com/RobertoBlake2, just like the number 2, where I have over 1,000 videos to help you with creativity or entrepreneurship. So you'll definitely want to be there. And we're going to link up also a link for my Awesome Creator Academy mentoring group if you want to participate in that and be there with other serious creative entrepreneurs that are hustling just as hard as you, and also get some exclusive private content and private live streams with me. So
awesome. That is awesome. That's truly awesome. That's truly awesome. And also those of you watching on YouTube, I'm putting everything in the description. I'll be putting links to Roberto's sites and his Awesome Academy. That'll all be in the description as well.
Yep. Awesome Creator Academy.
Awesome Creator Academy. As always, Nez Nation, if you're new to this live stream, if you're new to our page, go up there and hit that like button, hit the follow so you can always get notified when we go live. And on YouTube, hit that subscribe button because I do like to post. I have a separate playlist for all my Nez Nation talk shows, all the guests that we have on, like Roberto Blake. I'm going to be doing probably a 2-part, 3-part with Roberto. Usually I cut them up and, they're about 30 minutes to an hour. I'm going to do a lot of separate.
This one could be a series.
This one could be its own. I think this one might be its own playlist. And by the way, I wouldn't even actually. I think that's actually kind of a cool idea, actually. So make sure you hit that subscribe button so you always get notified. Hit that bell notification so you always know when we post these interviews, bringing you inspiration, trying to bring on guests to share their story. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night, and we'll see you guys next time. This is Professor Nez, and we are out.